And I think the thinking is they'd rather lose the sale than carry a high inventory position. It's just that this has been so quick to respond to in this downturn more than any other downturn in the past that it's just created a massive disruption to the supply base like they've never seen before, where you've got hundreds of thousands of workers in the low-cost countries doing this massive migration back to their homeland. I think one thing we're certainly seeing is the let's use what we've got mentality. I think the cost to upgrade or the useful life of technology and applications was considered so short. A lot of companies rarely have full functionality out of their technology, their software, their systems. There's been a lot of turnover in companies in the past as people moved around to different jobs, and you're seeing voluntary turnovers that just about stopped. So now there's an opportunity to really build expertise with folks learning how to use these business systems and technologies a lot better to optimize and run their business. I think that's a unique opportunity that hasn't been around for quite a long time.
Do you recommend any ways to improve cash flow and working capital?
I think the first two is where the money is in supply chain, and that's in transportation and labor. And transportation rates have been dropping fast. I'm not sure how much lower those are going to be able to go. But labor is still a big untapped opportunity. Labor management has really started to get some traction in the past 6 or 7 years, although the concept is well over 100 years old, and it's been a mainstay in manufacturing for decades and decades. But it's only getting traction in supply chain in the last 10 or 15 years, I would say. And so there's a big untapped opportunity for companies to understand how to transform their labor-intense operations to a performance-focused culture. And that is one of the most, if I look at all the supply chain initiatives or strategies companies can take, that one typically floats to the top in terms of highest ROI.
But it's also a very difficult thing to do. Mainly manufacturers, or what type of companies would this apply to?
Labor intense. So let's say retail and consumer products distribution, high-tech refurbishing and kitting, field service operations, customer care operations. And even those, there are new technologies now that can help companies report on performance versus an expectation. How was their actual performance versus what the performance goal was, and then report that to management in terms of a score, and use that to evaluate, motivate, and even incent people to kind of take charge of their own performance. Now, traditionally, that's been somewhat difficult to do in jobs that are not direct labor. You're putting forth effort and you're producing some amount of work, but there are new techniques now to look at what we'll call white-collar and support operations, where there might be some thought intensity, or there might be time and task, there might be customer interaction. So it's not a directly measurable amount of work, and those have always classically been a challenge for engineers to figure out what is good performance for that person over some period of time. But there are new techniques out there that are becoming more prevalent, more widely used, and a part of a comprehensive performance management program.
Are you referring just to the U.S. market, or are these labor management practices also changing or being used in other countries like China?
Well, in fact, in India, it's pretty much the norm. In distribution operations, pay for performance is by far the most prevalent way of compensation. China has certainly been pay for performance in manufacturing operations, not so sure about in distribution. In Western Europe, it's a little bit more complicated, though we are seeing some changes there, and that's primarily because of regulations from the states and how they compensate people. But we are seeing the ability to engage people and let them take part in a true taste of capitalism, where they can actually, in a small way, kind of be in business for themselves when they're actually at work, as an employee for a company.
Logipi.